but
We don't know how we're gonna get her. We're gonna get her. That's a spirit, Kimberly.
we're gonna get
So,
her.
well, we're sitting here with, of course, Kimberly Clements of PINTS, LLC, a consultancy that consults with beer distributors and craft brewers and really anybody involved in the beer industry. She's a veteran of many years. Used to be co-owner of I don't know, Purple Eagle or something in Tucson.
Yes, Purple Eagle, Golden Eagle.
Golden Eagle. I knew it was some color eagle.
Something or another.
Would it be funny if somebody named their company like Fuchsia Eagle just to be obnoxious? No.
Yeah, you know it's probably an Anheuser-Busch distributorship when it's got an eagle in the name.
Oh yeah, Silver Eagle, Golden Eagle, all kinds of eagles. Eagles everywhere. Thank you, Kimberly, for being on our podcast. And it occurs to me right now
I've got Ozzy here too.
Oh, hello, Ozzy. Oh, look at I got Biscuit here too. Come here, Biscuit. Show everybody your face. Yeah.
Ozzy's new.
She's too tired.
She's brand new, so she's just laying on my lap today.
That's good.
She got to enjoy some snow this morning.
Yeah. Well, I just occurred to me that I look like a sailor.
You do look like a sailor.
Off to sea we go, mighty, mighty Mo.
You should have on a yellow jacket, and you would be the Gordon Fisherman.
Oh my God. All right. Well, Kimberly, let's talk about some beer business issues.
Okay.
Because you're always somebody that's good to talk to. You've been around, as they say, not in a bad way. But, how about this? The news came out this week that Anheuser-Busch is not going to include Budweiser for the first time in like 40 years in the Super Bowl. And I've gotten there's mixed feelings I have. What's your take on it?
Well, I just feel that probably the time is right for Budweiser to step aside. Bud has been in decline for a long time. And Anheuser-Busch, I don't know what you're drinking, but I've got my...
It's tea, actually. I forgot to get any beer for this. Sorry.
You forgot to get any beer?
I did forget. And I normally have beer like in my refrigerator, but my son was staying with me.
All right. Well, that explains it. So it just makes sense. I mean, they've spent so much money over the years on Super Bowl and Super Bowl advertising, Budweiser specifically. It was funny because I was going back the other day and looking at some of the old Budweiser, Super Bowl ads, such as, back in the day we had Bud Bowl, and I know everyone got so excited about Bud Bowl.
Bud Bowl is so bad. I can't believe people.
So bad.
So bad. Listen, beer bottles are going to play football against each other.
Right. And, sales have been in decline. So why not pull at the heartstrings in another capacity? And right now, everyone's COVID is obviously on everyone's mind, and in the community of beer, we've been a lot of people have been hit really hard, and just not just the beer community, but like in general. And why not tug at some heartstrings and promote vaccine education, which makes sense. They've done Clydesdales and puppies and things over the years. So it totally makes sense for them, because they also get a lot of viral and mentions on social media. I mean, yesterday people were asking me all kinds of questions like, what, Budweiser, like what's going on? And just friends of mine that I'm like, I've never seen you drink a Budweiser ever. Like, why do you care so much? But people do care. But it created quite a buzz in the marketplace, which is, exactly, I think, what they had intended. It could be that they just didn't have anything good in the queue this year either. But
well, that every ad is going to be, we're all in this together, right. With the slow piano music and showing kids playing baseball, and we're going to get back to normal.
When we get back to normal.
Yeah, I doubt there's going to be a lot of humorous or.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bad Super Bowl for ads, unfortunately.
Right. I know. It's just so take that money, put it into vaccine education and kind of pull at some heartstrings. And so why not?
Yeah, and save some money probably. I mean.
Right, and I think that's a a good play for them for sure.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, let's talk about distributor consolidation because it's
Right.
been just a steady pace since you guys sold your company, and but it seems like at least lately kind of a one team show with the Reyeses. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Well, I think that, the Reyeses, and I've said this before, could definitely pay top dollar and want to expand. A lot of people think it's, monopoly. It's a, what a family business. What an awesome, opportunity for some people that want to get out of the business. If you're mostly, obviously they're in the blue system and gold system. So if you want to get out of the business, I'm sure Reyes would love to talk to you. And
Yeah.
that train isn't stopping. And
Right.
it's not just Reyes. I think that, a lot of people are like, it's so unfair that distributors are getting bigger. I'm like, distributors don't want to get smaller.
Right.
That's part of the deal. Distributors want to get bigger. They want to have contiguous markets if possible. They want to find those synergies in the back house. So of course they're going to try to get bigger. And I don't, I credit them for that. Of course that's what they're going to do. But a lot of people out there just don't understand that. Like, it's not fair. It's totally
Right.
fair. It's absolutely fair.
Right. I agree, and it also keeps the prices high.
Yeah.
Considering
Especially when you have somebody that is a good consolidator,
yeah,
and such as Reyes, which they've showed that they can, even with the chaos of a consolidation, which for sure there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of integration that has to take place, but that they could keep that train moving
yeah,
with little disruption to the marketplace too. So
it's not easy.
that's
I mean,
important.
just combining route accounting systems to me is a nightmare. And
It's the biggest nightmare ever. Yeah.
so I
From
don't know.
experience.
Not many people are talking about this, but it seems like this subcategory of hard seltzers seems to be, I don't know, the numbers I see seems to be doing pretty well. Seltzers and ranch water. And I'm looking at my prep notes here, and you make the claim that you introduced me to hard seltzer. What is this, Leslie? What's going on here?
I
What do you
did.
mean? What do you mean you did? I introduced you to everybody in the beer industry first of all.
Oh no. We were in Montana and you were like, what is this stuff that your friends are drinking? And
I did.
it was White Claw. And this was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It must have been like 4 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And you were like, what is this stuff? This is all your friends are drinking it. And they all were. And I hadn't seen it. I saw it a lot in Montana, but I hadn't seen it in other parts of the country yet, Arizona particularly. And then obviously, it is what it is today. And it's just a juggernaut.
Yeah, I mean, thank God if we have it, because if we didn't, the beer industry would be even more in
Right.
the dumps.
It's it has created a lot of excitement, and also delivers volume and profitability to wholesalers, which they need and they like. So of course, it's been very good for them. And those that have that strong portfolio of the Mike's Hard Lemonade, the Truly brands and Sam Adams have really fared well.
Who would you want to make a seltzer that hasn't already?
Tito's.
Yeah,
I would like Tito's to come out with something different.
Before Coke and Molson Coors got together, I always thought that Coke and Tito's should get together and have a Topo and Tito's, which is what basically a White Claw is replacing. Yeah. Let's talk about Yingling. And that's kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal.
So what do you make of this JV with Molson Coors and moving into Texas? Texas is larger than the 7 states combined that they've moved into in the last couple of years.
Right. I mean, it makes sense for them. This has been in the works for a while, so it just completely makes sense for them to be in Texas and to gain. Where are you going?
I need to blow my nose. I've got allergies down here. So cedar's blowing in. We got cedar.
Oh, and see, this is what happens during COVID. The doorbell rings.
This is what happens during. What a
I
professional.
actually have to get the door.
All right, go get the door.
No, I don't. I thought I had to sign for something. This is what happens. Like,
I know.
doorbell rings.
I mean, can you imagine doing a professional interview like this a year ago where you
Yeah.
got your dog in your lap and doorbells are ringing and I'm blowing my nose and it's just, I dressed like a sailor for no reason.
My son's in the other room in school. Like, it's just, I told him don't come out. But I mean, it's great that Yingling is going to get that boost of volume of Texas, and they still, as I understand, have that opportunity to to decide what networks they're going to go with.
That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me too, because I would think that they'd want to be. I think that they'd want to be aligned with their partners. And
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's up to Pat Bakunis, and I think,
Well, Pat's a pretty smart guy. I think he knows
Yeah.
what he's doing.
yeah, I think so too. And the thing is that I think it works actually in Yingling and Molson Coors' favor because the distributors still have to fight for it.
Right.
And so, if they really want it, I personally think Miller Coors it's theirs to the Molson Coors distributors. It's theirs to lose because you're right. It would be logistically simple just to have it all.
I think it's really, it puts distributors on like alert because they haven't really had to fight for big brands like Yingling or before and compete. There's very few brands out there that distributors have to like really compete for to get into their marketplace, because for the most part, a lot of breweries are scaling back and not exactly expanding into other states. So I think it's healthy for a distributor to have to compete and have to show their capabilities and the opportunities that they can present over competition. I think that's always a very interesting thing that we love to see at work at Pints. And so especially when we're helping distributors out with that and what the supplier could be looking for. But it's intriguing that there's such a big brand out there to be had, and that can give that shot in the arm of volume and profitability.
Yeah. Do you think that Yingling has the cachet out west that it does along the eastern seaboard? I mean, the further away you get from Pottsville,
Right.
the less brand awareness. Now, stop that. Now,
Exactly. I think it's really hard for East Coast brands to travel, and even West Coast brands to travel east. It is a tough sell. There are some brands that travel okay, but are they powerhouses in that market? I think that it'll give a good shot in the arm to Texas, but I don't think that there's as much cachet for Yingling out west as there is obviously on the East Coast, where everyone knows it because it's everywhere,
Yeah.
And
I would say that, like, here in Texas, I've done this informal anecdotal polling, and it seems like it's about half and half of people
Right.
who are aware of Yingling, and then
Right.
people say, I don't drink Chinese beer.
I mean, even if I did a poll of my friends, and I ask my friends.
You have friends. That's assuming that.
What's that?
You do have friends.
I have
Is the
lots.
assumption. Okay, we'll move on from there, and we'll fact check that later.
So if I had to do a poll of my friends, I would say maybe 30% of them even know what Yingling is.
Yeah.
It's not on their radar. They haven't maybe traveled and seen it or remembered it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in that marketplace.
Yeah. It
But I think
does.
it's good that they're fine, that they're going there. I think that's a good move for them for sure.
Oh yeah, and this is a light beer state, so Yingling is a lighter tasting beer. I think it'll do well here, and they have really good trial. Once you try Yingling, it repeats pretty well, at least for a while, you know, for at least a year. Um, so what about distributors shedding SKUs in the COVID era? Have you been seeing much of that?
Well, it was funny because actually before, like actually right when COVID launched, we were working on a SKU reduction program for a very large multi-state distributor. And um, they they had us finish the project. And before I gave them the final project, before Dan and I gave them the final project, we were like, are you sure you want this? Because this is going to be relevant in 2 weeks. It's actually our report of what SKUs that you need to get rid of and what we're seeing and how, this is costing you more money and all of that is basically going to go in the trash. This report is going to go in the trash in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. Sure enough, we checked back like a month later and they're like, we haven't even read your report. It's so crazy, but you're right. We're not ordering, from a lot of different brewers. Brewers are starting to kind of scale back on, because it costs money. That's the thing. It costs a lot of money to handle, to put a brand through your system all the way through from from ordering it to warehouse to selling. And so once you start to, figure out what each brand is really costing you to handle and whether it's worth it or not, that's when, the rubber meets the road. And we saw a lot of brands really scale back or get dropped from distributors. And I think it's bound to happen. I mean, especially right now. I mean, like last week, you even talked to Bart, and Bart's like, Bart Watson with the BA, the chief economist, and he's like, yeah, we're going to see some casualties out of this. We already have. And we're going to see more for sure. Because if they weren't healthy going in, which that's what we were seeing through data, through the numbers, if they weren't healthy going in to COVID, and maybe they got a loan, the PPP or whatever they got, and that sustained them through 2020. But that's not a long-term game plan, and they can't be sustainable long-term like that.
Yeah, it bought people some time,
right. It bought time. Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
sure.
I was surprised to see that at our beer summit last week that both Walmart and Whole Foods say that they are not reducing beer SKUs. And I think that I think that when I thought about it, I was like, that's incredible, but it makes sense because they may not be reducing the number of SKUs, but I guarantee you they're different SKUs than there were last year.
Sure.
They're larger SKUs, bigger brands,
bigger package sizes, more seltzers, of course. I mean, I said before, where are all these seltzers going to go? They're going to take space and share from a lot of different brands.
Yeah, Milwaukee's
and it might
best.
be some of the local brands that they were like, yay, we got into, the set, that are now being deleted because they weren't pulling through COVID, because people weren't exploring and being as, sampling as many brands as they probably used to, because they're not going to the store as much, or they don't want to. If they shop like we shop in my neighborhood, neighborhood shops together. Like we buy almost, our shopping habits have completely changed. And, just during COVID.
What do you mean you shop together?
We buy in bulk, meaning that, hey, does anyone need anything from Costco? I'm placing an order for delivery. Does anyone need anything from Safeway? Does anyone need anything from Walmart? I'm placing an order for delivery. And so we all place our orders in groups.
Huh.
We all look out for each other. It's so
That's
different from, I mean, I've barely gone into a grocery store
what
in,
what other things? So you're a single mom, you have a job, you're not traveling anymore. How has your life changed personally?
oh wow. I mean, what I just said, like we
Yeah.
shop in groups, which is weird. Um, just I was thinking about it today. The last real business trip that I went on, besides, going to Phoenix and stuff like that, was in, I went to Boston in early February last year for a meeting with a client. And that was like the last big trip I went on. Last conference was, we were at the Breakers with, with the Beer Summit with you. And I mean, just having to juggle, everyone's juggling so much. It's amazing how much my life has changed in the past year. My son has probably been in class at school 10 days,
Mm,
you know,
wow.
for in the fall.
Yeah.
He hasn't been back so far this year. So I have to, work sometimes from home. Sometimes I'll go to the office, and obviously my business partner and I work incredibly well together.
Yeah.
So we're both very patient with each other's schedules, which is pretty incredible. Just trying to juggle so many things, and whether it's homework and schooling and and this morning, like, there was snow and it's like squirrel. My son's off his computer. I'm like, don't you have school? Come on. And it's
Yeah,
snowing outside, and
it's
make
hard
me
for a
cinnamon
kid.
rolls, and just trying to juggle so many things. That's how it's changed personally, professionally. I think that we've been able to adapt. I mean, obviously, immediately, so much of our business got kind of shut off because we plan things like way far in advance, like what we're going to do with clients. And so a lot of that just, really shut down. But we're lucky for the clients that, we continue to have, and that continue to trust us with their deepest, darkest secrets of what kind of consolidation they're going to do, what kind of plans that they have for different brands, what due diligence we have to do. We still work on a lot of analytics. So a lot of those things, the only thing that we can't go really do is a lot of in-person stuff. And we like to see things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we like to go in the trade and see things. We can still do that to some extent, but through the data. And so I mean, it's changed a lot, but we realize that we're able to still, have these Zoom meetings and talk about things, and people be able to show us what they're talking about. And so a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of, just having to adapt. And I think
Yeah.
that's what everyone's doing, is really just having to adapt.
Well, one of the things that entertains me each day is I like to go through your Twitter feed, Casey Beerchick, and you're a very prolific tweeter, and you're able to tweet intelligent things without getting in all kinds of trouble like I do. I don't know why. I seem to get in a lot of trouble, but I'd like to go through some of your tweets, and I just pulled them
Okay.
up, and I like that you tweet about our summit. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was
But
I got a lot out of it. I thought your
good.
speakers were great. I love the content, and also the next day, not just the beer summit, but the wine and spirit summit as well. Sarah did a great job. So
I thought so too. That content from that summit's amazing,
yeah,
and
and
it
I,
was better because there weren't any glitches. You could watch the whole thing without.
but I just I get a lot out of it, and I'm always wanting to learn more from people, because that's what drives me, so that I can help. I'm here to help. And that's what I like to do. I love to figure things out for people and be able to help the industry and help the industry grow. And that's how I learn. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So one of the things you said is bingo. The number one thing distributors want to know is what chains do you have? The number one thing that a chain wants to know is what your distribution network looks like. And you're referencing Paul Renee at Geloso. And
Right.
I mean, isn't that true? That chicken and egg problem has been around forever.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, and myself included, when I was a distributor. When I was a distributor, I remember we brought in a craft beer brand from Colorado. Well, at that time, Colorado didn't have, beer wasn't in the grocery stores. So there was no IRI data to go off of, right? So, trying to sell it into the chains was incredibly difficult because there was they couldn't see any volume. There was no traction. There was no, they don't care, Kroger doesn't care about what the independent stores are doing in a marketplace. So learned our mistake on that one. And that, you want to know where they're at in the chains. That's the major thing. And when he said that, I was like, yes, that is exactly right. And also working with craft brewers and some of the smaller ones, not really the larger ones, kind of know, but we still kind of guide them and as the voice of reason in some cases, is that you're putting together a network. And you need to understand the implications for what that network's going to look like if there's consolidation, if, in particularly a consolidation, or if you're trying to put footprints together. And so they don't really brewers don't really get that so much. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really important because it is a network. And if potentially your goal, which a lot of them won't admit to this, but it's still possibly a goal out there. If their goal is to sell, and we're always kind of the voice of reason, like, well, let's talk about who you're going to sell to. How's that going to work? You want your network to be pristine. Okay.
Right. And when you say sell, you mean sell yourself, the company.
You're selling your company, okay, to another consolidator, another
Right.
brewer, maybe a consortium. You want your network to be pristine because you want as little disruption in the marketplace as possible. So you don't want to have to go and interview a bunch of new distributors and interrupt the marketplace and do all that. So you want your network to be pristine. So it's really important that you consider these things as you go forward. So that's why that rang the guy from Geloso, Paul Renee.
Paul is he rings bells in my brain because he really is an old school guy and he gets it. And sometimes I don't understand why brewers go with a completely fragmented network, because one of the things is like at least when I worked at a distributorship, I worked at a Molson Coors distributor. We all talked to the other Molson Coors distributorships in the region, not just the state, but the region. Right. So we, like, what are you gonna do about this with Kroger, with this brand? And we would communicate and be on the same page. I can't imagine going to the AB distributor across the street.
Yeah, we never talk to the AB distributor.
No, of course, never. We wouldn't even talk to them in the stores.
Right.
So.
And that's the thing. Distributors are so myopic because they only kind of talk to their own. And I knew that as a distributor. The fact that I work with Miller Coors distributors blows my mind, because I would have never. Why would I even know anything about other than the local competition? And so now,
they just have different acronyms.
I realize I realize how myopic you can be as a distributor, because you're only learning from your own. Own network. You're not really learning from the other networks. So it's it's great because I get to see so many different things from so many different networks that's what I learned from. And I just think that distributors can be very myopic in that way. But back to your point is that those networks, when you're all talking, yeah, because you're collaborating on what the strategy is going to be. You don't want to collaborate what the strategy is with somebody who is really your competition.
Right. And the other thing is that you're going to have holes. You're going to have territory that has nobody servicing it, because people forget that AB and MC territories don't match up completely. In fact, they almost never, unless it's a full county, where we just have this county, but otherwise they don't match up. And so if you're with the patchwork, you're going to have these little spaces that don't have any trucks going to them at all.
Sure.
And some people are fine with that because it's usually rural,
Yeah.
But
there'll be that one Walmart out in the middle of Bumble, that somebody has to go to.
Right.
And it's not gonna, and it's that bad route. Cause I mean, we had a little territory too. And like, we had routes that we'd have to go up into Utah and come back into Arizona to get to. So not profitable.
No, that's called windshield dollars.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All about that.
Well, there's one tweet in here that I completely disagree with you about. I don't know what you were thinking. You must have been into the wine or something. I pretty much always analyze and assess the value of POS, the situation in bars. Looking at the walls of colorful but semi-broken, irrelevant POS and the money spent and the money wasted. Most of traditional POS is a waste and a stupid spend. Wasted. I love old broken up POS on the walls. It makes me feel warm inside.
And go to the swap meet and get it for you. Would you? I don't see any there.
Well, I can't favor any brands, but yeah, I love going to a bar that there's always that neon that's flickering,
And no one's paying attention to it. And it's probably a Red Dog neon, right?
Yeah.
Or
the one with the Clydesdales that go around a circle.
That's called the Parade. That's a very expensive neon.
Yes. None of them work. They don't even work. None of them. Have you seen one that works in a bar? You just hop up there and grab it and run out.
I know. That's a very expensive piece. It's called the Parade.
The Parade, yes. The Clydesdales. When do you say bud? I remember those. Oh, the Coors glittering mountain spring water coming down. That was a good one too. Classics.
But there's so much irrelevant stuff that's out there that's not being taken care of. And in some states, you're not supposed to have, signage for brands that you don't even sell in the bar. Not that anyone's policing that, but it's just, there's so much crap out there that I'm like, clean it up. It's crap. But on the flip side, because somebody commented, like, is it a retail problem? Is it just, it's what we're used to? It's what we're used to. Like, and I can't help it. Like when I go into a bar and see a bunch of POS, which guilty, I paid for a lot of that POS that's in there,
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, outside the beer industry, they call that pieces of shit.
Yes.
POS. We call it point of sale. Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just, I love a clean, sleek look to a bar. And I think it has its place. But I also think there's just a lot of crap out there that's collecting dust. You've been to the Garden Bar, okay? The Garden Bar in Montana has this huge Bud Light neon outside that's so old. It has dust and collecting dust like all over it for the longest time. And I'm like, doesn't anyone pay attention to this or tend to it or anything? It's just, I don't know. No. And the consumer is not paying attention to those types of things anymore, which was what my point was, is that the consumer is bombarded by so many different pieces of information that they're not looking at a neon and going, oh, that's going to make me buy
Right, because they're on their phone.
a Budweiser anymore. You know, that's not going to make me buy a Bud Light. So
Do
they're
you kind of think though that, like, because I agree with you, by the way. I love old
you
dive
just
bars,
said
but
you
other than that,
disagree.
other than that, I like a clean look too. But the thing is that don't you think, like, I feel like the POS was an arms race, just like the Russian and US had in the,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes,
the 50s through the 90s. And it was just like, we have to have neons because
right,
our competitor has neons.
right.
And
Yes.
I don't know if a neon has sold a case of beer,
Yeah,
but it's just, we have to have, and remember we would go, the brewery would make us,
yes,
write down and what am
yes.
I
You
trying to
had to
say?
have
Judge.
the number one. You
Yeah,
have
no, no,
to
yeah.
buy
And
that
it's like,
spot.
it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
shelf space
No,
matters. I get that. I get
as
that
the world's
displays matter.
worst merchandiser ever, I remember the first piece of point of sale that I had in a window, that I got a front window, and how important that was, to have
Yeah.
that piece of point of sale in that front window. I mean, it's not there anymore, obviously. I mean, it's changed out, 50 times, since then. But that was always the charge, is that you had to have so much POS, and your competitor, if they had any more POS than you had, you got graded down in that account. And that just, it's a stupid kind of, um, metric, because if you're up in the account, then that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
You want to grow sales in the account. It doesn't matter how many pieces of POS you have in the account. It matters that you're selling more beer in that account. And there's different ways to do that than just POS.
I think that, I think that printed table tents do work, if there's a special, or,
Right.
or if it's a new brand, just
What really
alerting.
works is when the bartender or the server suggests something.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got Coors Banquet um, buckets on special today during the game.
Yeah.
So I think the power of suggestion is the most powerful thing. And for that, I think that making sure that bartenders are very well notified or trained about what they're selling, I think that'll speak dividends. And also, doing, I can't say enough. It pains me, because I have so many on-premise friends that are struggling so hard right now.
Yeah.
And it's awful. But just making sure that their people are still trained and still motivated, because it's so hard to be motivated right now.
Yeah.
Especially in the on-premise, the places that are open. Don't forget. I tell my distributor friends and partners, don't forget about them,
Yeah.
because they'll remember.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll remember everything you do, for gosh sakes. They'll remember things that happened 18 years ago. Okay.
Right.
But they will remember who was there for them.
Yeah.
And they'll
That's a good point.
remember, the sales reps that came in, even though, they were open part of the time, to check on them, to see how they're doing. I think it's so important, because at my heart, absolutely bright. There's nothing I can do for them except for, I almost order everything to go.
Yeah.
Or have it delivered.
It's the only thing you can do,
Right.
Well, we're run out of time, unfortunately. I could sit here and talk to you all day,
Well,
Kimberly.
we could just talk all the time, right?
I know. That's good. Well, thank you for doing this. I'll put it up in the next day or so, and we'll link to it in the newsletter. But tell your sweet mother hello for me, and everybody
Yes.
else.
So Ginny's had COVID.
Oh, I heard. Yeah,
But she's doing okay, and she'll love that you asked about her.
Yes.
But she's she's recovering well. She can't wait to go to Fleming's. That's all she cares about.
Oh my gosh. Me too. Tell her me too.
Yeah,
So,
right. So thank you.
all
I
right.
appreciate it, Mary.
Take care, Kimberly.
All
Bye bye.
right. Cheers. Bye.